On this Saturday night, rebutting the rules. Increasing demands to drop the persisting pandemic mandates.
At the end of the day, the current policy probably isn't doing a whole lot.
As a Tory MP is walked off the Hill over vaccination status. Plus, the root of Russian miscalculation in Ukraine.
I think he overestimated himself, his generals that surround him, and the ability of his forces.
As we look back on 100 days of war. And marking a monarch milestone.
All Canadians want to see this reconciliation evolve and move forward.
The Governor General on what the Queen's Platinum Jubilee means to Canadians.
Global National, reporting tonight, Neetu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Calls are getting louder for the federal government to drop remaining vaccine mandates. There aren't many left, but they do apply to those who want to travel by plane or train and federal employees, including those working on Parliament Hill. Abigail Beeman has more on what's left and an MP who says she was escorted off the Hill for refuting those rules.
I was prepared to have them remove me.
Saskatchewan Conservative MP Kathy Wagenthal won't disclose her vaccination status, but she says she's not allowed to fly or take a train. Friday, she took her seat in the House of Commons and says she was warned she'd be removed. She eventually left on her own instead.
So I just walked out and was walking down the hill, and the sergeant at arms, who had met me earlier in the day, was halfway down the hill, and then he escorted me the rest of the way to my car.
Wagenthal opposes vaccine mandates, and lately more people agree. At this point, they mainly affect those who travel by plane or train and federal employees. The Public Service Alliance of Canada filed grievances against that federal policy in March.
I declare the motion defeated.
A Conservative motion to revert to pre-pandemic travel rules failed Monday.
Every single time we have been anchored in science.
The policy seems to lag the science, and it has become incredibly political.
Doctors point to the science of the Omicron era as a reason to drop mandates, perhaps with healthcare settings excluded. Data shows vaccines are now less effective at stopping transmission.
It's more like an airbag than it is a collision prevention system. So it won't stop you from crashing into the virus or encountering the virus, but it will stop you from going through the windshield if you hit the virus.
You can either say, we're going to lift it, or we're going to require 2 doses plus infection, or 2 doses plus a booster dose, a third dose. At the end of the day, the current policy probably isn't doing a whole lot.
We asked the House of Commons about what happened to MP Wagenthal. They didn't dispute her take nor confirm any specifics. Meanwhile, the Public Health Agency has extended current travel rules until at least the end of this month. And the Treasury Board Minister's office tells Global News they hope to have an update on requirements for public servants before the House rises for the summer later in June. Abigail Beeman, Global News, Ottawa.
The Canadian military has raised concerns about the ongoing harassment of Royal Canadian Air Force aircraft flying on a UN mission to prevent smuggling to North Korea. Chinese fighter pilots have been flying as close as 20 feet away from Canadian planes in international airspace while giving Canadian pilots the middle finger. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says it's extremely troubling. Mercedes Stephenson joins us now for the latest. And Mercedes, Foreign Minister Mélanie Joly says Canadian pilots have every right to be in that airspace, and she says she'll take the issue further.
Neetu, Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly says that she will raise the Chinese pilots hot-dogging directly with Beijing, even though the Chinese government has ignored multiple diplomatic rebukes so far. Joly also says she will raise the issue at the United Nations with the Security Council.
Canada is doing this surveillance work in the context of a UN mission. And China being part of the UN Security Council, we expect them to respect our work.
The behavior is raising concerns among allies that the Chinese government is trying to expand airspace claims by making it too dangerous for Allied aircraft to fly near China. This week on the West Block, I talked to Defense Minister Anita Anand about just how close those more than 24 aggressive intercepts have been.
They put the safety of our RCAF personnel at risk. And in some instances, the RCAF aircraft felt sufficiently at risk that they had to quickly modify their own flight path in order to increase separation and avoid a potential collision.
The defense minister is also under pressure to act on the scathing report on military sexual misconduct by retired Supreme Court Justice Louise Arbour. Arbour says the military is sitting on hundreds of recommendations from various reports over the years and won't change unless politicians do their job and have the political will to force modernization. I'll ask Minister Anand if she's willing to take personal responsibility for that and how she will address the concerns that this report will just be more talk but not more action.
Again, I totally understand the skepticism, and all I can say is you will see the progress as this year unfolds. We have hit the ground running with this report.
What exactly that means and looks like are the big questions that remain for the minister, and I'll be asking her those on the show. Neetu?
Mercedes Stevenson in Ottawa, thanks. And you can watch Mercedes' full interviews with the Defense and Foreign Affairs ministers tomorrow on the West Block, right here on Global. As Russia's invasion of Ukraine eclipses the 100-day mark, reports say Moscow is throwing all its reserves at Severodonetsk, a key city in Ukraine's eastern Donbas region. Ukrainian officials say they've managed to fight back and recapture about 20% of the strategic hub. But the back and forth in the country's east could be a sign of things to come, as both armies are now locked in a fierce and bloody battle for control of key eastern cities. As Eric Sorensen reports, this isn't where Russia wanted to be when it first sparked its invasion months ago.
О проведении специальной военной операции.
What Vladimir Putin called a special military operation was in fact his declaration of war on Ukraine. Russian forces struck from the air and on the ground and from all directions. Ukrainian cities were bombarded, civilians killed, and tens of thousands panic-stricken Ukrainians began flooding across all its borders. The Russian soldiers, they kill children, she says. They bomb schools. At first, it looked like Russia would swallow Ukraine and decapitate its government. Putin and others thought the capital, Kyiv, would fall within days. It was a gross miscalculation. The Ukrainians fought back, supported by arms and intelligence from NATO, even sinking a major Russian warship. Putin also underestimated President Volodymyr Zelensky, who many thought would flee. We are here, said Zelensky, with other government leaders, becoming a symbol and inspiration to Ukrainians. And Zelensky motivated nations around the world to help. Global leaders came together, and much of the world united to stand up to Russia. Analyst Marcus Kolga says Vladimir Putin misjudged Ukraine, the West, and even Russia's military capabilities.
I think he overestimated himself, his generals that surround him, and the ability of his forces.
Putin has told Russians all is going according to plan, but one more strategic failure is plain to see. The brutal invasion of its neighbor has caused other neighbors, Sweden and Finland, to prepare to join NATO. Russia's goal of keeping the Western alliance away from its border is backfiring spectacularly.
The last 100 days have demonstrated that when the West stands together, we have a chance to fight back against these sorts of authoritarians.
But for all that has gone wrong for Russia, there are no signs that Putin is losing his grip on power, that he can and will fight on. In the first 100 days, Ukraine has withstood an onslaught. And if the next 100 become a grinding war for territory, one question looms. What would each side accept to bring about peace? Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Tonight in London, two heirs to the throne publicly thanked the Queen for her 70 years of service as the weekend's Platinum Jubilee events continued in the UK. The woman at the heart of the celebrations was not in attendance, but Prince Charles and Prince William joined thousands of onlookers to take in a star-studded concert to celebrate the Queen. Crystal Gomansing has more now from London on the day's events.
The image of Her Majesty drumming "We Will Rock You" on a teacup sitting across from Paddington Bear was surreal, and there were many moments just like that. a tribute fit for a queen from Queen. Many wondered how guitarist Brian May could top his rooftop rendition of God Save the Queen from the Diamond Jubilee Party. But the band wowed as May rose from the stage, appearing to play on the Queen Victoria Memorial. The enormous crowd for the party at the palace started gathering early Saturday. The star-studded concert, a huge draw, but the woman at the heart of the party was the main attraction.
It's not only just once in a lifetime, it's once in probably the entirety of mankind, with monarchies on the decline now. And I really think that it's not just a British patriotic thing, I think it's the entire Commonwealth.
New images of the Queen recorded in April were just made public.
Would you like another one?
The 96-year-old missed the Epsom Derby early Saturday, a favorite race of hers. She was also unable to attend Friday's service of Thanksgiving after experiencing discomfort the day before. With huge crowds all over and scores of visitors, security is tight. Trafalgar Square, which is opposite Buckingham Palace on the Mall, was evacuated. The High Commission of Canada, located at the famous square, locked down. Metropolitan Police conducted a controlled explosion, fearing a vehicle left in the area posed a threat. The situation was handled in roughly an hour. The area reopened and the party atmosphere restored. Sunday is the final day, and we will see the Gold State coach return to the streets after 2 decades. Now, the Queen will not be riding in the 260-year-old gilded carriage. Instead, images from her coronation will be projected onto the windows of the coach. Neetu?
Crystal Gamansing in London. Thanks, Crystal. Coming up, scenes of ruin and resilience after 100 days of war in Ukraine. When Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine on February 24th, some experts predicted the capital, Kyiv, would fall within days. But not only is the city still standing, it is roaring back to life. Our Jeff Semple is there, and on this 100th day of the conflict, he reflects on nearly 2 months of reporting from Ukraine and where things could go from here.
100 days ago, few expected to be seeing this. Summertime in Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, is bursting with life. It honestly feels like any other major European city during peacetime. People drinking lattes during the day and craft beer at night. The city has roared back to life. From here, it can be easy to forget that this country is at war. The city hasn't been hit in over a month. But of course, appearances can be deceiving. If you drive out to the suburbs, you find communities lying in ruins. If you drive about 800 kilometers east of here, roughly the distance between Calgary and Vancouver, you arrive at the Donbass, which is an active conflict zone. Civilian targets there being shelled every single day. A few hours from there, up north in Kharkiv, near the Russian border, Ukraine's second largest city, is trying to get back to life, but remains under constant threat. The governor of Kharkiv told us the Russians have not abandoned their plans to capture this city. We must be prepared for them to try again, he says. We witnessed that Russian retaliation firsthand while visiting an area northeast of Kharkiv that endured weeks of Russian occupation before Ukraine's military pushed back. As we were interviewing this resident whose home was recently liberated, suddenly incoming mortar fire. After that, it was time to leave, except for those who can't leave. The sick, the elderly, and others with nowhere else to go. So 100 days in, that is the story of Ukraine. It is a tale of 2 countries, really. The peaceful West, the war-torn East. And of course, that is what Russia is trying to do, to tear away parts of this country for itself, to claim some of these Russian-speaking communities. But after nearly 2 months in this country, we have not met a single Russian-speaking Ukrainian who wants that. In fact, many of them are taking up arms for the first time to fight back. Jeff Semple, Global News in Kyiv.
And be sure to tune in tonight for 100 Days in Ukraine, a Global News special hosted by Jeff Semple. That's at 8:30 right here on Global. Ahead, how the war in Ukraine has created new refugee trafficking risks.
You're watching Global National.
When Russia invaded Ukraine 100 days ago, the world watched in horror as shelling and gun battles erupted, forcing women and children to flee their homes into neighboring countries, leaving fathers and husbands behind in search of safety. As Karen Lieberman reports, so many have nowhere to go. They're desperate and say they're being targeted and exploited.
Masha Sakhno and her mother arrive in Toronto following a nearly 3-month-long journey from their home in Ukraine. They're met by their Canadian host, Kelly Abbott. On the morning of February 24th, Sakhno woke to the sound of bombs falling on her native Kyiv.
We was like in a dream. We can't imagine what happened, and
fearing for her life, she fled first to Poland, then to Germany, and finally rural Ontario.
We met online and started talking in private messages, and then we both kind of said, oh yeah, it sounds like we could potentially help you.
So many have opened their hearts and homes to Ukrainian refugees, but with the worldwide outpouring of generosity comes a darker risk and much more dangerous reality.
They see someone saying, oh, I'll help you, I'll take care of you. They are in a very vulnerable position.
Sakhno recalls being approached by 2 men while walking alone in Germany.
What do you do? Where are you from? I can recommend you. I can help you with a home. You can come with me.
The executive director of the UN's Gender Agency points to increasing reports of sexual violence and human trafficking in Ukraine, all raising red flags about a potential protection crisis. The danger is also virtual, on Facebook pages matching Ukrainians with hosts. Messages like this one shared with Global News asking when the recipient will arrive in Canada and if she's looking to get married.
It is ripe for human trafficking and modern slavery, and we do see everything from sexual exploitation to an increase in domestic servitude.
Sakhno says she received a message from a man offering a free apartment in Toronto.
You can come to my district, to Toronto, and I will give you key, and you can stay alone on my flat.
And to hear that, someone was trying to take advantage of people in that situation makes me feel sad.
Julie Jones, who you heard from in our report, is also a former police detective and intelligence specialist. She said the most vulnerable time is when people first arrive, no documentation, very little if any money, and language can also be a barrier. So anyone offering help may seem like a safe haven, even if it is not. If you see something that seems off, make sure that you offer to intervene or call your local authorities. Neithu.
Karen Lieberman in Toronto. Thanks. Next, Governor General Mary Simon on meeting the Queen and the monarchy's role in reconciliation. As the Commonwealth pauses to celebrate the longest reigning monarch 70 years on the throne with a spread of events right across the UK, Donna Friesen, who's in London for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, sat down with Canada's Governor General Mary Simon and has more on her recent meeting with the Queen.
This Platinum Jubilee is such a milestone for the Queen, for the monarchy. What are your reflections, your feelings about this moment in history?
It's a very important time in our history. It's really important for her to see that she is very much appreciated. The crowds in London have been tremendous.
Are you going to the party at the palace? Are you going to take that in, Rod Stewart, Diana Ross?
Yeah, of course.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm here for the party as well as the work. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, great, great. And then Sunday is the pageant, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'll be at the pageant, yes. Yeah, I'm going to all the main events, and I have bilaterals in between the different events, so we're making the most of the trip.
You have met the Queen, and what was that like for you?
It was a lovely visit. She was very engaged, and and very warm and friendly, and made you feel very comfortable in her home. The whole visit to me was a time for me to be able to express to her how proud I was to be her representative in Canada. She talked about her family quite a bit, and her children and her grandchildren, and that was very good for me because I love my grandchildren and my children, so it was a nice conversation to have.
You were the first Indigenous Governor-General of Canada. Can you talk to me a bit about why that matters?
When I was approached to become the Governor-General, I thought about it a lot, just thinking whether it was something that would be important for me to do for Canada. And I came to the conclusions that yes, it was a good thing and an important step in terms of working on reconciliation. Canadians had been talking for many years now on reconciliation, but there had been times where it was kind of very stalled. And the revelation of the unmarked graves, or the finding of the unmarked graves, really, I think, woke Canada up, because it made Canadians realize that they could actually see and feel the impact of what it meant in terms of Canada's history. And I do focus on reconciliation a lot because all Canadians want to see this reconciliation evolve and move forward.
Thank you so much for taking time with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that is Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada is Wascana Lake in Regina. Keep sending your photos to viewers@globalnational.com. Thanks for watching. Donna will be back tomorrow from London. Have a great night.